Rock on, baby.
Everybody. Thank you.
Welcome, Counselor. Good evening or good afternoon, everybody. Today is April 3rd. It is the BDD Buckman Direct Diversion Board Meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Engelhoff. Mr. Schmidt-Peterson,
He's excused.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Counselor Cassett,
Here.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Here.
and Commissioner Green.
Here. Thank you.
Quorum.
Wonderful. Next on the agenda.
I am here as
Oh,
just
sorry.
an alternate
I
or
have,
It didn't get called.
good, thank you. I did,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So we move on to the agenda, item 3. Any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, there are no changes.
Move to
on
approve.
this end.
Thank you. We got a motion by Counselor Romero Worth and a second by Commissioner Hughes. We have to do a roll call, correct? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives,
yes.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth.
Yes.
And Chair Green.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Moving on to the minutes from February 6th. Are there any changes or anything that needed to be edited?
To approve?
Thank you. Second from somebody, please.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes. Counselor
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Chair Green.
Yes, thank you very much. Moving on, matters from the public. There are folks here from the public. Joni, if you would like to come up and address us, please. And if there's anybody else, please plan to do that. Take it away, Joni.
Afternoon. My name is Joni Aaron. I'm with Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety. Based in Santa Fe, I've been watching this project since 2002, when the first scoping meeting took place down at the Chavez Center. I'm here to address issues with the Lano-Swice comments prepared by the Buckman Board and have some constructive criticism about how they need to carry more weight. They need to cover more issues. And the Lano-Swice, the site-wide environmental impact statement, it's 1,200 pages long. It's going to cover a period of the next 15 years of operation, which is until 2040. It's kind of difficult to think about that amount of time. But when we think about the amount of waste that's buried on the Pajarito Plateau in unlined pits, trenches, and shafts at different depths and with different contaminants and radionuclides and toxic materials, it's not a long time. And so we need to look both ways, both till 2040, but we also need to look down the line many, many years, centuries, actually. So right now there's 800,000 cubic meters of waste buried on the Pajarito Plateau in the unlined pits, trenches, and shafts, and it's moving towards the regional drinking water aquifer. And the hexavalent chromium and the perchlorate in Morton Dead Canyon is just an example of the contamination traveling 1,000 feet below the surface to the water supplies. And so here we are at a project that's diverting water in order to facilitate more people living in Santa Fe. And we need to do better. So Lannel has proposed 3 alternatives in the Lannel SWICE. There's a no action alternative, and this is all required by the National Environmental Policy Act. No action alternative, a modernized operations alternative, and an expanded operations alternative. And each one builds upon the other. So it's not really a no action alternative. It's an alternative that's packed with projects. And so CCNS is asking for a actual or a true no action alternative, because there is no other alternative other than these 3 that DOE has proposed. We're also asking for a reduced operations alternative, which goes in the opposite direction of what Lannel's proposing for the next 15 years. So Lannel states that the expanded operations alternative includes the modernized operations alternative, and it responds to future nuclear security challenges and meets increasing requirements. It also proposes to have construction and operation of new facilities that would expand capabilities at Lannel beyond those that currently exist. And so the expanded operations are 50 pits, plutonium pits per year to be produced there. 30. And that they would add 927,000 square feet of buildings and operations. Then, so that's the big one, is the expanded operations. But under expanded operation, there's modernized operations. And that would be 2.2 million square feet of new space. And then under that is the no action alternatives, which would produce the 34 reserve plutonium pits per year. So we have about 3 million square feet of new space at Lannel, and that's when it rains or snows, that it's going to collect and it's going to come down to the Rio Grande eventually, whether it goes on the surface or it comes down through all the different layers of the geology to this area. And that's for the next 40 years or 15 years. And we need to look broader. So our main concern is that the proposed BDD comments, just found in the next to last line in the comment letter, it states the board supports the expanded operations alternative, which includes changes in operations, revised wildland fire reduction treatments, and management of feral cattle. So reducing the wildfire risk and the management of feral cattle are only a little tiny piece of the expanded operations alternative. And it doesn't address the number and the 3 tiers from the no action alternative to the modernized alternative to the expanded operations, which includes all 3. And so what I provided here is from the summary of the slides is the actual language from that section that describes the expanded operation so that you can see what Lannel actually said. Then when you go down here on the back page on S-12, you can see where the feral cattle and things are. Or they're actually, it's on the other sheet. It's on the first. Yeah, right here. It's at the bottom of the page. So the sentence in the comments seems to indicate that the expanded operations are supported by the board. And I just want to point out that there's only two things here. This paragraph here at S.2.4 talks about the culmination of the three alternatives into this expanded operation. And then if you look on S12, it says there would be notable increases in annual electricity and water requirements over these 15 years. So we need to have a more holistic view of what Lanel's proposing and the possibility of the need for the Buckman Board to protect the water supplies on the east side of the river at Buckman. Make sure that it's functional. So we're not just focusing, in this case, we're not focusing specifically at Pueblo, Los Alamos Canyon. We're looking at the whole river and all of the contamination that has come down and is found in the springs along the west side of the Rio Grande. The contamination that's already showing up at the springs at the Rio Grande, including at Spring 9, Spring 10, further down the river. So my CCNS's recommendation is that there's time, comments are due April 10th. There's time to go back and write fuller comments that demand more protection of the Buckman and the river and the springs and the overall health of the area. Because, you know, they're talking about big increases, and I really do appreciate in the comments talking about the water rights issues, because that's huge. You know, and just looking at the numbers for the water that they're anticipating using, it really challenges under national security whether the Buckman would even be able to operate and take water. So there's just, it's bigger than what's been put forward, and I think it needs to be strengthened. So thank you.
Thank you, Joni. Is there anybody else here from the public that would wish to speak to this? Or just public comments?
Speaking as public right now, man.
Okay,
So
please.
I know it's totally unexpected. This is the second time I've done this. Commissioner Green, everybody else on the board, thank you. On behalf of the city of Las Vegas, New Mexico, we really want to thank Brad and Jesse for helping the city through their most recent water emergency at 700, 6,000 gallon tanker trucks that filled at Buckman, helped the city of Las Vegas. And on behalf of the city of Las Vegas, thank you.
Thank you. Fabulous. And anybody else from the public here that would like to speak matters from the public? Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to presentations and informational items. We've got the monthly BDD operations. Matt, you do the honors, please.
Thank you, Chair Green, members of the board. This memorandum is to update the Buckman Direct Diversion Board on BDD operations during the month of March 2025. The BDD diversions and deliveries have averaged in million gallons per day as follows. Raw water deliveries, 5.99 million gallons per day. Drinking water deliveries through Booster Station 4A and 5A, 5.20 million gallons per day averaged. Raw water deliveries to Las Campanas at Booster Station 2A, 0.59 million gallons per day. The BDD provided approximately 70.5% of the water supply to the city and county for the month of March 2025. Then I've also included in your packet the February operations report is included for your reference. And I'll stand for questions if you have questions.
Thank you very much. Did since we missed last month, was there any comments that were a part of last month that we should have been updated in part of this operations report?
Chair Green, members of the board. No, nothing unusual. It's just the averages for the month of February.
Okay, wonderful. Board? Anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. In terms of the water deliveries do we have any sense of the breakdown between San Juan Chama versus native water in terms of those waters coming through Buckman?
Thank you, board member. So as far as like the breakdown per day, or I guess I don't understand.
Just of these, yeah, probably a daily, because this is all sort of daily calculations.
Yeah, so so it does change week to week, depending on the forecast for the week. And I think in the month of March, it was anywhere from 2 to 3 million gallons per day, San Juan Chama release, and then the rest was native as part of our forecast.
Gotcha. Just curious, because I know that he has a certain portion that it can pull, as does the county, and the county has a mixture of the native and San Juan. So, yeah, just always curious about that. There was a question from citizen member Schmidt Peterson, which was, can you describe contingencies for providing water demand from BDD or other sources if one or more of the city and county sources of water is unable to provide its planned supply in what's looking like a dry and warm spring? And that dry and warm spring seems to be reflected on the other charts that are there in the packet.
Thank you, board member. Can I refer to Jesse Roach? Thank you.
Of course.
I just, hold on just a second. So is this an appropriate topic? This is a bigger issue than BDD. I just don't know if it needs to be noticed on the agenda. Be talking about the water supply overall, not just the BDD operations. I'm just asking the question.
I think it's fair because it does relate to BDD operations if there are contingency plans in place.
Right, but we're talking about the overall water systems for, and I think the way you phrased it, the city and the county, and we don't have a county representative here from their water division, do we?
Doesn't look that way.
Yeah, so this to me feels like it's it's an interesting topic. I'm curious about it. I just don't know.
Is there a process here that we can forward this on at least and have it reported out? Because it is an interesting topic and in the goals of transparency and to get this sort of thing, if one person's asking, 100 people are asking. So,
Mr. Chairman, we could have it as an agenda item at our next meeting if people are available and have it as a separate item so we could have a full discussion on it and presentation.
there's a level of, I know this is BDD, but there's a level of sort of the two water boards in a way could be reporting out some water things in the future, even if it's not related as a sort of mechanism, but
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just, want to make sure that people who might be interested in this would have notice and
of course.
would be here to hear what the information is. And that's why we put things on the agenda, so.
Certainly no objection to having a session looking at those issues and understanding what contingencies are being put in place given what's looking like a dry season. So if we could add that as an agenda item and make sure we have people here who can address those topics, that would be great.
I also think, Mr. Chair, just that, that's a big and important question, and I would like the staff to have time to be able to
Okay.
answer that in a coherent way.
Jesse, you think you could be prepared for your team by next month? We'll go send the request to our team over at the county. Thank you. Is that acceptable?
And I'm sure that these contingency plans are being considered, so
Yes.
We can get a fuller presentation and maybe some materials beforehand. Looking at those issues, that would be great.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Not on this.
Anybody else for operations? Seeing none, we will move on to item 6B, report from the facilities manager. Brad? Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you, board members, Mr. Green. Excuse me. So we have made significant progress on our MR&R plan. We are moving forward with the procurement process of purchasing three different GAC replacements and also two different membrane rack replacements. On the rebuild project, Phase 2 design build procurement documents have been finalized and distributed to offerers. Responses, including technical solutions, schedules, and cost ranges, are due in early May. BDD and city procurement have been leveraging the city's established on-call engineering contract to streamline the process of securing our owner's representative. We are actively negotiating with candidates and expect to finalize agreement in the coming months. Good news on the audit. It's been finalized and sent out. Due to conflicting schedules, we weren't able to schedule and put this on the agenda, but it will be next month. And as you can see, our current job vacancies, we have been filling more than a few. We have also lost a few, so we haven't really made much headway in that respect, but we are hiring some of these more important roles. And I'll stand for questions.
Any questions?
Just one question, which is status of efforts to engage an owner's rep in connection with the design work and plans going out?
I'll defer that to Nancy.
Mr. Chairman and Member Ives, as Brad mentioned, we do have the ability to utilize the city procurement for their on-call engineering contracts. There's several candidates that look very promising. We're moving ahead with one of them in terms of some further negotiations. And so we're hopeful we'll have a owner's rep contract for you to see in the very near future. I would like to say at our next meeting, but I don't want to promise that. But we are working on it diligently.
Thank you.
Councilor Cassett, anything from the real world? Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Just to reiterate, owner's rep is probably the most important thing that I see on our agenda right now. So expediting that and making sure that we get a good one it's great to have this on-call person providing those eyes, but the earlier that somebody comes on, the better the results we'll get on the procurement for the actual engineer. Wonderful. That is it for this item. We're going to move on to action items. We have the request for approval to delegate to the BDD chair to work on the extension for the MOU between US DOE and emergency management. Kyle, take it away.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Thank you. So the recommendation we're bringing to you this evening is to delegate to the board chair authority to entertain a new extension. At this point, we think it would be prudent to have your involvement, Mr. Chair, in the next conversation with our landfill counterparts to try to resolve this issue for the MOU extension and the MOU replacement agreement. So if you want to hear any more from Jay or I about where we are, but that's the gist of the recommendation today for going forward. And we'd like to suggest we work with you to get that call scheduled with Jay and I.
I'm game for anything like that, but I also want to see if there's been precedent with this, and is this typical?
We have had various board meeting involvement with regulatory agencies. I can think notably of a series of meetings that we had with senior NMED staff. We've also had different contact with all different levels of the Department of Energy by prior board members. So it is not outside that set of prior experiences.
And do we have, yes, ma'am?
I guess I have a question, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. So this agenda item, again, sorry to be, request approval to delegate to the BDD Board Chair to execute an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding. What does that mean exactly? I thought we were extending because I know when I was chair, we extended the time and we weren't going to have a meeting and there might be some need to sign an agreement to extend the time. And so I was granted authority to sign something saying we would extend the time, but this seems a little broader. And so I'm
It's intended,
Yeah.
curious.
it's intended to be the same authority. Also,
And so to clarify, it's just to negotiate the extension or to actually help get over the finish line?
both.
I guess, yeah, and I'm just wondering, so the last time we did this, it was just to extend the deadline. It was just to sign a piece of paper that says you can extend the deadline. And we got the board's
Or we got,
approval for me to sign that piece of paper. We didn't grant the authority to talk to folks at Lannel about the agreement. And I don't know whether it would be appropriate to have a city representative as well, either Councilor Cassett or myself. And I see Councilor Cassett has her hand up. So I just curious whether, again, I haven't seen this since I've been, obviously not because this is new situation.
should have clarified my answer a moment ago. This specific authority is similar to the one you were given, which is to negotiate and execute an extension, not to do a replacement agreement. But when I was answering the question about the nature of the call and the topics on the call, it is sort of both, to sort of map out the extension, the work that needs to be done for the new MOU. And we think that the involvement of board leadership is appropriate at this time.
I'm at the top of the pyramid, but I'm also have a vice chair. And, you know, if the vice chair with her knowledge of this wants to participate, let's do it. Is that appropriate?
I guess that's not, I mean, I defer to our legal counsel on this. I don't.
Just as easy from our perspective, you know, we're going to schedule something with busy people. It's easy to do it with you and Councilor Cassett. We've got a number of other people that need to be on the call, and we'd be happy to proceed in that.
Do you want to, or do you want to defer?
Councilor,
Yeah.
remember, we're the chair right now, so it'd be with her.
Yeah, well, she could also delegate to you if she feels like that's.
Yeah, I think this one's a little broader than the one that we approved last year, so it might be good to have us both on the call.
And I mean, there's a level of getting me up to speed probably and to really get into the details of this so that we're a little more prepared when these things happen. So, and how much time, this time they're asking for the extension, correct?
We are still needing an extension. Yes, they've asked for an extension through December.
Okay. And is that, Nancy, are you looking at me?
I was just going to point out, but I think that you, your question sort of answered or your statement did, is that they're really two separate things. It's extending the current MOU and then negotiating a new one. So I think first is just get the extension in place. And I understand that Lionel's asking until the end of the year, but I would think you would want something shorter to get the negotiations heated up a little bit more so we could get to a new MOU.
I agree. So, I mean, that would probably be my first intention with the extension is not to give it all the way to December, but, you know, September, something like, but.
I don't think we meant to use the word heated in the fullness of that.
Yes, but with intention. Yes. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question. Who's negotiating this on behalf of BDD currently?
Jay and I.
Okay. I do not see any reference in this to changing that structure. If there's a request to extend the existing agreement and then also allowing additional time to negotiate a new MOU. which is different than saying we're going to create a whole new negotiating team. So I'm trying to really understand what is being sought here.
Chair, board members. Right now, and Cal, correct me if I'm wrong, he always does, but what we're looking at here is really just two items that remain on negotiation, but they're big items. And one is the amount of money that we would be receiving from Lannel for our monitoring, and the other one is the replacement of the E110.7 gauge. Everything else is pretty much agreed on. It's just those two items, they're biggies.
And I understand that, but it didn't answer my question, which is, are you proposing to change the negotiation team and how negotiations are being handled as part of this? Because this here doesn't say that to me.
The intent of the caption, Member Ives, is to give the board chair the authority to sign an extension, which is the same authority that was given to Councilor Romero Worth at the end of her chairship. The tension between what we've requested and what the lab has suggested, we think that now is appropriate to involve the board chair in resolving that so that we can create the space for negotiating the new MOU that will succeed the extension of the current. So the agenda item is intended to be a mirror. I think it is a direct mirror of the one that was previously presented. But since this has now become intertwined with different degrees of extension and how that fits into the replacement MOU, that's the suggestion from us today.
So, and in the reference here, and allowing additional time to negotiate, which is different than changing your negotiating team to include this delegation, really suggests that you're saying we should strike allowing additional time. So it's extending the termination date and to negotiate a new MOU.
The intent of that phrase from the prior agenda item and this one is that we need the extension to allow for the time.
And I understand that, and that's clearly there, but it's this question of negotiation. So
I think, I don't know actually if we are required to delegate here who the negotiating team is. But if there's a request by you for some of the board to be a part of this, to sort of get it over the finish line, I think we can take that request and find a city representative and a county representative to be on that without necessarily having an action item on that. So really, let's break these things into two. We can then take legal and advisory support to that and take that to yeah. So anyway, I'm going to break this into two things. So first thing, we have requests for approval to delegate BDD chair to execute an amendment, which is an extension to this. And so do we have a motion to take care of that?
motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay, we got a motion from Councilor Ives and a second from Councilor Romero Worth. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, just before you do that, Councilor Cassett did have her hand up.
Oh, and
and-
it's back up here. Go for it, please.
Yeah, so I just want to
Thank
make
you.
sure whatever question she had got answered.
Thank you. I did just want to clarify. So Commissioner Green, so you're breaking this into two pieces, but right now we have on the caption, it's only describing the board chair. And so I just want to make sure that not specifying as we vote, having a city representative there, that's not going to impact our ability to do this. So my understanding is that there's a negotiation team that'll have a city representative, but what we are saying here is that as board chair, it's essentially the ability to
Sign the
do
extension.
that agreement, to sign said agreement. Okay.
Just the extension. We're not going to sign the agreement will come before us once it's negotiated, but all we're talking about is signing the extension in this motion.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Yes, ma'am. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Counselor Cassett?
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Chair Green.
Yes. Thank you. I'm gonna just let you guys come back to us and say, please, you guys can decide who wants to be a part of this from the city. We'll figure it out from our side as well.
I have a
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it, so the MOU is going to come back to the full board? to
Absolutely.
approve?
Yeah. Oh, the final MOU, absolutely. We're just,
As it always has.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if I can, I think what our legal counsel was asking for is board leadership. So I think naturally that would be you as chair. And if we want to have a city representative, me as vice chair.
fabulous. Let's do it. Thank you. Moving on to item B, review and approval of Buckman Direct Diversion Board comments on the SWICE.
I don't believe the mic is on. I'm not hearing anything.
Have that, Counselor Cassett, is that better?
There we go. Thank you so much.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. Jay Lazarus, Glorietta Geoscience. We're talking about the board's proposed comments on the SWICE. Our comments follow item 6 on the 2025 Water Quality Work Plan, which was to provide comments on the SWICE on items that were of specific interest to the board and specifically affected the board. And they're specifically addressing the hexavalent chromium plume, PFAS contamination, and water rights. And I don't want to go through and read the whole document, but we have limited our comments to those items that are specific to the board's interests, and I'll be happy to stand for any questions or discussion.
Thank you very much. Councilor Hughes or Commissioner Hughes?
Yes. Well, I don't understand why we are supporting the expanded operations alternative when a lot of times the no action alternative or the zero action alternative is just as desirable.
Because this was the Chair, Commissioner Hughes, because this was the one alternative that addressed the wildfire risk and the feral cattle. The wildfire risk is really important to us.
Can't we support the wildfire risk without supporting the rest of expanded alternative?
If the board so chooses, yes, we can.
And yeah, I kind of like the support that, but other questions before I get into mine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, a question, do we want Lanel to more explicitly address legacy contamination that could migrate down LA Canyon should more big fires occur, or at least try and get them to upgrade the early warning system for flows down LA Canyon into the Rio Grande?
Member Ives, members of the board. Trying to remember both your questions. You know, you are a lawyer and you do compound questions. I get it. But the second one specifically, yeah, I mean, the wildfire risk is for real, and we're supporting their efforts to reduce the wildfire risk. I mean, I have the firsthand experience, Peter, and I with City of Las Vegas with what wildfire did to the Guyanas River watershed. So that's why we addressed the wildfire risk in here. And could you please repeat the first part of that question?
Good. Was do we want them to more explicitly address legacy contamination that could migrate down LA Canyon should more big fires occur?
We could include that. That's not specifically in, I followed the language in the 2025 Water Quality Work Plan, looking at these specific concerns that the board has. if the board wants us to expand the comments to looking at how legacy contamination may come down LA and Pueblo Canyons and the tributaries, we can add that also. But the SWICE, all due respect to all the people put all this energy into it, it's a big arm wave in a lot of ways. Okay? There aren't a lot of specifics to sink our teeth into. And we're a little disappointed that there weren't specifics in there for us to sink our teeth into, especially as it related to the board's specific concerns. So we took our specific concerns and tried to fit it into this broad document. I'll put it that way.
And do you think it would be worthwhile to ask them to upgrade the early warning systems in some way that would be able to detect and provide information more quickly?
If you want to, it's not a matter of providing the information more quickly. It's a matter of upgrading the gauging. Yeah, it would be providing some of that information more quickly, depending on how they would do the reconfigured E1 10.7. We're asking them, see, and if I'm understanding you right, Member Ives, what you're asking for is incorporating our MOU ask into the SWICE comments. So if the board desires that, we can revise this and put that in there.
It would seem to certainly elevate the request a little bit if we were consistent in several different interactions with the lab.
Bear with me while I make a couple notes. But yeah, we can do that.
I believe in consistency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, I would suggest at the same time taking out the support for, the board supports the expanded operation, just taking that out of the last sentence, or the second to last sentence.
I just made that note, Commissioner Hughes.
Okay.
Counselor? On the side bench over here, Commissioner Johnson, Member Eaglehoff, Counselor Cassett. Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, comments are due 1 week from today. And we wanted to make sure that, this is one of those rare occasions where we actually have time. There's some time, but this is also structured for all of the board members to sign the document. So in terms of the mechanics of making those changes, getting board approval, and getting all of the members to approve it, I'll do whatever the board wishes, but we need to understand how the mechanics are going to work a little bit on this.
Nancy?
Just going to note, Mr. Chairman, that the board should approve it now with the changes that have been recommended, so that action, if that's what your inclination is, to approve it, that should go ahead and get done tonight. And then the letter could be circulated for signature. We'll find a way to do that.
Wonderful.
Mr. Chair. Is there a way on the last sentence? So it says the board supports the expanded operation alternative, which includes changes in operations, revised wildland fire risk reduction treatments, and management of feral cattle. So I guess but we are concerned about wildland fire risk reduction treatments and the management of feral cattle. So is there a way to say that without saying
Endorsing
broadly,
one, yeah.
endorsing the operations alternative?
Councilor Meadow-Worth, we can just take out the language that says expanded operations alternative, wordsmith it appropriately, but take out those 3 words. And I think that is, if I'm not putting words in Commissioner Hughes' mouth, I think that's what he was looking for.
Right, except he worded it as take out the last sentence, which I think the whole memo is around, well, not the whole memo, but makes these important points, which we are concerned about.
I
Yeah.
meant what he said. You
Okay.
can say the board supports changes in operations, reduce the revised wildland fire risk, et cetera.
And I would advise some highlighting of that and sort of calling out the sort of like, this should be part of a no alternate, right? You know, no growth or modernization, whatever it is, things should be happening regardless of whichever way they go. And I,
Would it, Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman Green, would it be okay with the board to have language saying regardless of which alternative the lab proceeds with?
These are our priorities and A, B, C. Yeah,
Exactly.
yes, sir. So,
Oh, but only for this wildfire section.
and the feral cattle or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, the things that would protect our water and BDD, that regardless of their choice of how they expand or don't expand or modernize.
We can do that.
Wonderful. And so, you know, in this, the wildfire passage, I think is fabulous, fine. If I were drafting this, I would put a conclusion paragraph after this that then restates everything, you know, state it, restate it, tell me a third time just in case I missed it. And put the sort of summary of all of these recommendations, including, you know, so that last sentence is almost the conclusion. But it's buried in under wildfire. So if another paragraph comes in there saying, in conclusion, the board of the BDD says, you know, these are the important things. And, you know, despite, you know, our arm waving, these are the most important things.
Chairman Green, would it fulfill what you request if we, instead of conclusions, maybe say recommendations?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just summarize everything into a short paragraph that says the most important things a third time.
We can do that.
Thank you. Councilor Cassidy, anything?
I'm okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Anybody else up there?
Move to approve as we've outlined? Is that?
What's
What you
the
need-
other change besides the one we just talked about that I suggested?
A summary of the points that are being made.
Right, and then didn't you want to change too?
Legacy wildfire remobilizing legacy contaminants in LA and Pueblo Canyon, if I got that right?
Yeah,
Upgrading warning system.
And quantifying for that, you know, I don't know what's in there, but it'd be good to know.
In terms of a contaminant inventory, that is something that the lab is doing, albeit at lab speed.
I would encourage an expedited, I would then add an expedited,
Which isn't warp speed, if,
they haven't invented that.
just couldn't resist.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second out there?
Second.
Second?
So we have a motion from Councilor Romero Worth, and I'm going to let, I heard Councilor Cassidy, Commissioner Hughes. So with those corrections, we will get it redrafted and edited in the next few days and
Roll call.
circulated. Roll call, please.
Before you do that, I'm sorry, but
No problem.
mechanically, how do I do this? Who should I get this to Nancy? It'll be distributed. I just want to make sure I'm efficient.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Nancy
Figure it
and
out.
I'll figure it out.
Yep.
I drive a lot. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Gossett?
Yes.
Councilor Romero Worth?
Yes.
And Chair Green?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. We are on to item 7C, request for approval of Buckman Direct Diversion Policy addressing the tapping of BDD transmissions lines. Jesse, please.
Chair Green, members of the board. BDD includes two transmission lines that we refer to as 4A and 5A, which deliver the finished water to the city and county potable distribution systems. There is currently no formal policy in place for considering and approving new connections to these lines. So the policy that's proposed here requires BDD board approval of new connections to these lines, specifies that those connections can only occur at locations where T's and valves were installed during transmission line construction, and lays out required specifications for said connections. The policy itself is quite short, so I think I'll go ahead and read that, and then I'll stand for questions. There's additional background information in the policy, but the policy itself says no connections will be allowed to the BDD 4A transmission line. All future connections to the BD 5A transmission line will be solely through the use of the existing blind tees. Any connection proposing to tap the BDD 4A transmission line or BDD 5A transmission line without using an existing blind tee is prohibited. Connection to the BDD 5A transmission line at blind tees will require, at a blind tee will require BDD board approval of the connection, adherence to BDD connection specifications, and installation of a master meter to BDD specifications. Once the connection and master meter have been inspected and accepted by the BDD facilities manager, the master meter will be dedicated to and become part of the BDD project. BDD connection specifications and master meter specifications are included as a drawing with notes for either 6-inch or 8-inch master meters as an attachment to this policy. I've also provided a map that gives a visual to the table in the policy that explains where the blind tees are. And I apologize to Councilor Cassett. This is last second map development, and there are some hard copies in the room, and we will attach a copy of this to the policy for purposes of clarification. And with that, I would stand for questions.
I would move to approve the policy.
Sorry, we got a motion. We got a second motion from Councilor Romero Worth, a second from Councilor Cassett. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jesse, the only map I have is a sort of engineered drawing of.
I apologize. There weren't quite enough to go around, but there should be one there that you can share with Commissioner Hughes. And I guess while you're looking at it and familiarizing yourself with it, I will say that this is explained a little more fully in the policy, but this policy essentially says that the 4A line can't be tapped. So the 4A line goes from the Buckman direct diversion to the 10 million gallon tank in the La Tierra open space. And it is our policy that that line should not be directly tapped. The distribution lines that come back from that tank are how people get that water. Now, of course, anything could be done by this board, but it would require a different motion. So by policy, we would say, no, you need to figure out a way to ask for a special exception.
And I don't know how the original 10 Ts were identified, or what potential development there was around the city at that point in time. I guess I have a lot of questions about how all that developed, where we're at this point around the city, that I would need to understand better before saying, let's prohibit other taps. Because we know we have housing shortages and crises, and there's land that can be developed likely along these corridors. So, yeah, I'm not ready to vote in favor simply because I think there's more information we need to know before saying, no, you can't do this. And I realize that could be changed, but once you put something in place, it's a lot harder to change it than.
Mr. Chair, may I say something about this?
Yeah, and I have
Sure.
something to say as well.
Yep, go ahead.
The way that the 4A line functions, we just can't tie into it, the way it functions. The 5A line is run by pressure, so that means that we could tie into it. So to reiterate what Jesse was saying is, it would take massive engineering, maybe even a booster station, something like that to tie in to the 4A line. So it's just the way it functions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, hold on, let me clarify his question. Was your
Yeah.
question based on the 4A line or just what you're seeing with the 5A line?
Really both, because, again, didn't have the map, sort of saw this, but had no idea where these were or exactly where these lines were running. So, yeah, I'd just like to understand all that better against the backdrop of city development.
Yep.
So
Yeah, can I just maybe put a frame around this? I think it's important to remember that BDD is a wholesaler, right? And in terms of your question, which I think is focused on the development needs of both the city and the county, there are other ways to tap into those water systems without tapping in to how we deliver wholesale water to the partners. And so I think this is like maybe, and maybe Director Roach with that lead in can help us better understand why it's really important that we have this policy.
Chair Green, Member Ives, Councilor Romero Worth, thank you. I would say that in best practices, you have transmission lines, like with electricity, frankly. You have transmission lines that move bulk water around to storage tanks, and then you have distribution lines that customers can tap into. I think also as a wholesaler, in a perfect world, there would only be transmission lines going from BDD to the distribution network. In the case of 4A, we decided that somebody decided, and I don't have the context that you were asking about how they decided where to put the blind tees on 5A. But in terms of 4A, the decision was made, we take this water to the tank, and there is actually one other potential place. There's a booster station along the way where water potentially could be split out to the county. But the decision was made that that's sufficient and we won't tap them for distribution. Now, I would say that if someone has a development that really has a good reason that they want to tap into a line somewhere on 4A or somewhere on 5A where there is not a T already, then they can come to the board and make their case. But they can't go through a simple process of, yeah, we would like a connection at this T. So I would highly discourage any policy that allows an ad hoc connection to either of these transmission lines for reasons that are laid out in the policy itself.
My question is very simple. Can you explain this map a little bit? What is line 4A?
4A is not on that map. 4A goes up and off the map to the upper right. This is as much as I've learned.
So this is all
5A.
all 5A? Okay.
And this goes, so that
Wait.
goes south to the county's line to feed area.
Yeah, I see that. What's number 1? Is that the bulk water tank?
So, Chair Green, Commissioner Hughes, I apologize for the lack of clarity, and we can improve on this map. This is hot off the presses. But to give you a little bit more context, the Buckman Direct Diversion Water Treatment Plant would be just off the map in the upper left. And in fact, at point number 1 is, I believe, and Brad could correct me, although he doesn't have the map, is where 4A and 5A split. And 4A goes north and connects to the 10 million gallon tank. 5A continues south along the Caja del Rio Road until it hits 599, which is on the border. The hash line there is the city limits. And so this is all showing the 4A line with the numbers calling out where there were blind tees established on that line. And this policy recommends that that's where connections can occur, and it'd be a relatively simple process for somebody who would propose a connection at one of those locations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Sir.
And I guess just to underscore our facilities manager's point, I mean, I think the reason why you would want somebody coming to the board is that this does have real implications for how the system works. And we would want to understand the pros and cons of any connection made. And we would want this, we don't want that administratively approved. We want this board, if there were somebody who wanted to do that, to come here and have staff help us understand why it is or isn't a good idea. So I think really what we're doing is protecting the system so that it can best deliver to the partners who then deliver to their communities, whether it's Las Campanas, the county, or the city.
Thanks.
That's well stated, and I would like to make a couple more points of clarification while we're into this. There already are connections at point number 4, which is Wildlife Way, at point 3, which is Wildlife Way, point 4, which is the archaeology building, point 7, which is the county public works complex. So these connections have already been made at these locations of these blind tees. We haven't had a formal process in place, and I haven't been around for the administration of any of those connections, but they are occurring. These are also large-scale investments for the vault and the master meter that go in here to the tune of $500,000. And so my understanding, and again, this is just my understanding, I could be wrong. I believe that although there is a blind tee at number 5, the animal shelter, it was cheaper for the county to connect to their distribution lines off of line 4 that then went under the road and serve the animal shelter, because it is a huge endeavor to tap into these transmission lines, and we shouldn't lightly. We will always, our staff recommendation will always be not to tap into these lines if there's any other alternative. Now, there may be situations in the future that were unanticipated by the planners of this line that mean that we do need to consider that, but we will not take that proposal lightly.
So are you getting requests then to tap into these lines?
Yeah, the next agenda item will be a request that I have to tap into this line.
And is that at one of these points?
It is.
So the only entity asking to tap into the lines is City of Santa Fe?
Well, most of these connections really will serve the county. So the one I'm going to ask about is at point number 2, and it will be to serve the city's golf complex. But most of these other connections off of the 5A line would serve potential county development.
And 4A, and the water tank you reference, what are served by line 4A? There don't appear to be any taps on 4A. Is that correct?
And thanks for the question. I think we'll see if we can fit the 4A line and the 10 million gallon tank on this map, the next iteration of this map. The city and the county serve customers from the 10 million gallon tank. Most notably, all of Las Campanas is served off of the 10 million gallon tank. So 4A and 5A serves both city and county via that distribution point.
And again, I just have more questions about how exactly this system is structured.
So I would,
Complete map, so
Yeah.
I'm frustrated to the point where I would say no, but
so I think that, for the purposes of growth and for the purposes of the system says don't tap in, right? And this is a recommendation based on experts and engineers. And then there are probably plenty of taps and for us to work within. So the 10 million gallon tank can deal, for instance, the Northwest Quadrant or Las Campanas or Atano Road or any growth that's happening gravity fed from there, or even with pumps in the north side of Santa Fe. And this line 5A ends up dealing with the west side and the south side of Santa Fe, and allows for El Dorado and the community college district to get water through that extension in that of the county system. Is that correct? That sort of explain a little bit. And to the point where growth is going to happen, but growth shouldn't happen by just these taps without coming to us, which is really the main point of this.
Right, and I guess I would just add, we're protecting the overall integrity of our facility here and its ability to deliver water to the partners, who then will deliver water for growth to its customers.
And any major growth or recommendation any growth would go probably through the city's planning commission or the county's planning commission. And then if they needed to have a recommendation for a new tap into this, it's a heavy lift, but it should go before city or county boards and say, look, we've got letters from the planning commission, from the commission or the council. Can we ask the BDD to do that? And at that point, to allow hurdles and review before we actually get an administrator that decides one day just to do this on,
Yeah, and I guess I would just add to that, it's not just about the city and county boards or the developers who are coming to ask for this, but it's also hearing from our staff and our engineers that it'll do no harm. And that it will only, again, I think we're protecting the integrity of the infrastructure that we have and our ability to serve the partners that are part of the Buckman diversion.
Mr.
Yes, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, before you call for a vote, I just wanted to point out that we will be changing the effective date at the top of the policy. This was obviously prepared for our last meeting. That was canceled due to the wind. So we'll change that effective date to today's date if there's a favorable vote.
Can we get that put in the motion just to make it?
Do you want that in the motion?
And does it matter because no request came? I mean,
Well, I think because it needs to reflect the date that the board adopts the policy, and that's today.
Don't predate yet. So, would you?
Yeah, so I just amend my motion to approve this new policy and ask that it be dated as of today.
Councilor Cassett, is that
Yes, I agree. A second.
wonderful? Great. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ide,
Abstain.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Chair Green.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Fabulous. Moving right along. We are at tapping the transmission line for Marty Sanchez. Hey, wow. Keep going.
Chair and members of the board, I'm sorry that this memo did not make it into the packet. I'm going to read the memo, a short memo into the record for consideration by the board. The item is BDD 5A transmission line connection for the Marty Sanchez Golf Complex. Background, Marty Sanchez Golf Complex would like to use utility water instead of an on-site well for domestic purposes and have access to high-pressure potable water for turf irrigation needs in the event of an emergency disruption to effluent or raw water resources. The 5A transmission line runs adjacent to the complex. The request is for approval of a City of Santa Fe connection to the BDD 5A transmission line at the blind T on 5A near County Road 69, as shown on the BDD water treatment plant raw water and finished water pipeline record drawings, sheet number 45. Connection and master meter installation will be made to BDD connection specifications pursuant to the BDD board policy for tapping BDD transmission lines.
Okay, are there any questions about this? So I've got a question just based on, is Marty Sanchez using effluent now? Has that been restored or was that cut off? Is that everything?
Chair Green, they did update their ponds, and so for a time they did not have access directly to effluent, and so they were trucking potable water during the winter for the greens only, but they're on schedule to begin their true irrigation this season with effluent, and the wastewater treatment plant is in compliance for delivery of that effluent.
So this is an emergency plan purely as a backup.
Correct. And I will say that the Water Division takes this very seriously, that we do not want potable water to be the easy button at this golf course, but there is a huge amount of infrastructure there that we want to have the ability to maintain in the event of an emergency. And I will say Plan A is the effluent. Plan B is raw water that to our very helpful partners at Las Campanas have helped us find a way that in the event that effluent's not available, there is a way that we can get raw water from 2A through Las Campanas' system into that system. So that's Plan B. And then Plan C is emergency only potable water.
system for raw water is in place or needs a little bit of?
It exists. It's not perfect. It could be improved, and a formal agreement fairly compensating Las Campanas for the use of their equipment is not yet in place.
And Marty Sanchez is pretty close to BDD. So, I mean, couldn't we run raw water from BDD to Marty Sanchez with our own system without having to?
That is potentially possible, but I think it'd be far more expensive than working out an arrangement with Las Campanas that fairly compensates them for use of their infrastructure, and a tie-in that was made to allow us essentially to take water on the way to Las Campanas and move it into the effluent pipeline system that's utilized by Marty Sanchez and the Soccer Valley. And in fact, it could go all the way to Swan Park.
And is this going to be able to be used on Soccer Valley as well? This Marty Sanchez tie-in?
No, this Marty Sanchez, well, short of creating distribution lines or a different connection, this specific connection at the moment is not envisioned to serve the Soccer Valley.
And is this agreement between Marty Sanchez and BDD in this case exclusive? And so Marty Sanchez couldn't resell water?
Marty Sanchez is a customer of the city water division. And so just like any customer, they can't take the water and resell it.
Yeah, so if I can, Mr. Chair, I think the agreement is between BDD and the city for the tie-in, not
Okay.
Marty Sanchez, because Marty Sanchez is the city.
Yep.
And
okay.
the city has a contract for Marty Sanchez's operations.
Okay.
Just for,
Clarity.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Move to approve.
Hold on, one more question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How much water does Marty Sanchez use every year?
For irrigation purposes?
Any and all purposes? I assume irrigation is the primary, but
Well, so I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but right now their domestic use is met by a single on-premise well. And so I'm guessing it's on the order of less than 10 acre feet, whereas their golf course irrigation operations with effluent are orders of magnitude larger than that. And we, as I mentioned, this is, in some sense, we think of this as a fire service almost. It's there for emergency, but we do not want it used as the easy option.
understood. I'd simply like to know what their annual usage is, if it can be provided.
I won't put you on the spot, Tom. Tom probably knows, but I won't.
He's grabbing a microphone. You want to say something?
I would guess probably 475 acre feet a year, something in that area. But I would add that in emergency situation, they're using the fire hydrants already. So that's happened already. So they're using Buckman well water already in an emergency.
So Chair Green and Member Eaglehoff, I appreciate you mentioning that. And I think for the context of the board, especially new members, it is worth mentioning that at the moment, so when we were talking about the T to the 5A transmission line at Wildlife Way, that serves county customers along that road. And we have created we have a potable fire hydrant there. And then across the fence, we have a non-potable fire hydrant that connects to the effluent line. And so as Tom mentioned, in times of emergency, the way we have gotten potable water to the golf course is by connecting those fire hydrants with a backflow preventer between them. What that does, it does deliver the potable water, but it's not, it goes to a pond and it's not pressurized. So that's the reason for desiring that if we're going to have to use potable water anyways, if it's pressurized, they can directly run their sprinklers with it. They don't have to store it in a pond.
Give it a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Romero Worth with the motion, Councillor Cassett with the second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Chair Green.
Yes, thank you. Fabulous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item E, request for approval and recommendation to the Santa Fe County Board of County Commissioners and the City of Santa Fe City Council to approve fiscal year 2026 Buckman Direct Diversion operating budget and other fund contributions. Brad, you're up. Or
Chair Green, this is Kurt Travers. He's been helping us in the interim of not having a accountant.
and can you introduce yourself beyond what Brad said and give us a little bit about, are you a consultant? Are you part of the city on loan? Are you, just tell us where you come from.
And make sure you speak into that mic. You're tall, you can put it up on the edge there, but you, in order for Counselor Cassett to hear you, you've got to really be talking into it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Green and members of the board. My name is Kurt Travers. I am with Clifton Larson Allen, who is BDD's accounting support group. We are, brought in to provide assistance, support, continuity in those instances where BDD's accounting function may have an interruption, which is what we're currently in right now and why I'm here today. So in your packets, you will find a 12-page summary of the proposed budget with a cover memo on top. We'll talk through all the various major sections of it, but I did want to mention that this was prepared using the same methodology, same files as BDD has done in past years. So there's been nothing new brought into this preparation. Okay. So BDD is pleased to present the proposed Buckman Direct Diversion annual operating budget for fiscal year 2026, along with proposed contributions to the Major Repair and Replacement Fund. This proposed budget accounts for all projected necessary costs to meet the board's service level objectives and to continue to provide high quality water to its partners. BDD staff actively worked with its partners on developing this budget, particularly on water estimates, which make the basis of our cost sharing structure. So we'll go start, look at budget highlights from the memo. And in that we have 8,786,157 for fiscal year 2026 operations. Of that, 8,570,157 is for partner reimbursements. 120,000 is from PNM solar rebate revenue. And at the moment, we have 96,000 for federal funds reimbursement from the grants. And of course, we'll see how that goes once we move through into the MOU negotiations. Fiscal year 2026 budget request increased by 273,810 from the fiscal year 2025 adopted budget. The emergency reserve fund is fully funded to our target balance of $2 million. And the major repair and replacement fund has 1,786,676 as requested contributions. So we'll go through the budget packet itself. I call attention to page 2. And this is the total proposed fiscal year operating budget, broken out by the partners and our third-party reimbursements. And it gives you a sense of partner and third-party reimbursement percentages that contribute to this operating budget. And in page 3, we start to break down expenditures by categories. As you can see, personnel costs are a little bit less than half of the total operating budget. Okay. If we move to page 5, This presents the operating budget compared to fiscal year 25's adopted budget and results of fiscal year 2024. This in particular is a nice piece of work, you know, looking at it as an accountant. So this is what we like to do here. As you can see, again, that 273,810 increase from prior year adopted budget. The major component of that is chemicals. And one of the reasons of that went up high this year is that we have not touched the budget, which was set at about a little over 400,000 for a couple of years, but costs have increased. I want to say late fiscal year 23 and all the way through fiscal year 24. And so now we're trying to reset that. So where you see that in fiscal year 24, the actuals were 620,000. The budget was 420,000. This year, I'm looking at extrapolate it. Looks like it'll be about 600,000 again. So that's why we increased that. If we go to page 6, this is the summarized cost sharing and partner volumetric estimates. These are the basis of how we do our cost sharing allocation. Not much change on this one, but down at the bottom of the page, you'll find the fiscal year 2026 estimates. So if we go to page 9, this is where we have the emergency reserve fund. There's no changes. Only again, we increase of about 80,000 from interest on that fund. Go to page 10 and 11. This is where we have the major repair and replacement fund details. This shows our projected fund balance. Where we ended June 30th, 2024, the contributions approved for the 2025 plan, the funds authorized for expenditure, which would include not only 2025, but any carry forward of funds that weren't expended in prior years, and then also the 2026 proposed contribution of 1.786519. With approval of this contribution and no additional authorizations, the fund balance will be 4,660,588 for fiscal year 2026. Page 11 is that detail behind the MRRF projects. And then I'd like to finish up page 12, just summarizes the funding allocation by partners. And this would be the final request operating fund and major repair and replacement, 10,572,676. And I would be happy to assist the facility manager and stand for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Welcome to the team. You know, we're hiring.
I have heard that.
Yeah. Go for it.
Just want to, since we have a lot of new members, I don't know who can best speak to this, maybe Nancy, about how this process works. I could do it, but maybe it's better if you do, just in terms of we're seeing this and then what happened. We're going to see it again, and just kind of how this process works.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Counselor, the details of how the budget gets presented and approved by each respective body is contained in the project management fiscal services agreement. But what you do here is you're approving the budget, but you're also recommending the budget to the respective bodies of the city and the county, governing bodies of the city and the county, for their consideration and approval, so it can be placed within their budgets that then go out for approval beyond them. Once we get word back here that the budget has been approved. If it has, most years it does come back just as we have recommended. I think there was one year, there was some change that was made, but then it is presented back to you for final approval of the budget after it's been considered by both bodies and adopted by them. So in that way, it gets put into the budgets of the county and the city.
And just to add to that, I think one of the other things that I don't believe is in here, the employees of the facility are city employees. And because the city's budget has not yet been finalized and or released, any raise for city employees would need to be added to this budget if there is one. And historically, over the past handful of years that I've been involved, there has been one. So I believe, I don't know how you, did you just keep that flat in this budget, or how, what is reflected here?
So that is relatively flat. We did use the city's provided from the HR department about the list of employees and the current wages. So this does not have any increase in it planned.
Right, so but that, that's what I would expect, but just so the board knows, that is something that once the city's budget is finalized, would need to be reflected and will be reflected when it comes back for final approval.
Thank you for clarifying that. And that was my understanding, and that is, I would say that not this time, it's too late for that, but next time it would be great to have some sort of, wouldn't call it risk analysis, but just understanding what flat wages would be. This is presented as flat wages, and here's what CPI was. And so CPI says maybe last year the city gave raises based on CPI, so we could expect this, because flat probably doesn't happen, right? And then, you know, if the city decides to be unbelievably generous and goes above CPI, then that could be sort of gauged at, you know, CPI plus. But great, thank you. And, you know, we're right in line. So Jamie's back. Hey, Jamie. Sorry, Councilor Cassett. Welcome back. Thanks.
Thanks. I was listening the whole time, just walking, so I don't want to make y'all dizzy. On that note, Councilor Merrill-Worth mentioned salaries. We are scheduled to implement the next phase of class and comp. So that is something that we had previously decided on and stated was going to happen. When you spoke with HR, were they looking at current salaries, or had they already incorporated the plan for class and comp to the next phase of class and comp to go into effect?
Yeah, my understanding is that it is current salaries as of February. So
Okay.
The date is really from February.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually wanted to go back to page number 1.
All right.
Down at the bottom of that second column from the right, you state 36 FTEs, 19 vacancies.
Yep.
So is that 19 vacancies of the 36?
That is 19 vacancies of the 36 positions, full FTEs. Yeah.
And then on page 3, you pointed out personnel. Does that personnel number include full funding for all 36 FTEs, or how is that done?
Yes, those vacancies are all fully funded. Salary determination by the position number, you know, and again, there's a range of positions, including all benefits. So even though, and actually this number may have changed. Again, we are working off the city's February data file. So it's, I know that I know that we've lost people since then. And I know that we've also brought on some new people too. Might have evened out. Brad?
Oh, yeah. Commissioner. Yeah, no, it's not exactly that number. And if you wanted something, you know, we could provide it, but it's close to it if it's not.
Part of the reason I asked earlier in the evening, we covered your report, which noted that there were 10 positions that the city was trying to fill, and those were in various stages. And this is the first suggestion I've seen that there are actually 19. And it sounds like there may have been a few losses. So I'm just trying to figure out the greater thing on staffing and connection.
Board Member Ives, if you pay attention to that line from my report, it has a ladder on there. And so there's numerous positions in that ladder for operations and equipment repairmen. So that's why there's a discrepancy.
Okay. So how many positions totally are reflected there?
I'd have to go back and get the for sure number, but numerous.
And I suppose the different way to ask that simply is that, are all these vacancies in the process of being advertised or filled?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm looking. Thank you.
Go for it. Counselor?
I just want to go back to the chemicals. So we have had to cover the increase in chemicals, but we didn't, so I'm a little confused about how you explain that. We haven't made it reflect, the increase hasn't been reflected in the budget as it's passed, but the cost has gone up and we've had to cover that over the years. Maybe we approve, I am kind of remembering we approved that the covering the increase as one-off votes, or am I remembering that?
I would have to look further into that. There is a budget processes in the accounting software are covered by a range. So it's not a one-to-one. You have one accounting line with a budget and you cannot go over that. It's a range of budgets. And within that, there have been, obviously we have vacancy savings over the years. We've had that every year. I think that's detailed on, one of the pages showing prior year results. So that's how I think we've gotten through that for fiscal year 24. Also for 25, is that our costs are down in other areas, and that allows us to withstand this sort of increase in chemicals.
Okay, that's helpful because I do think that is one area we obviously don't control, very critical to our operations. And it has been something that has occurred every year since I've been on this board, so.
Do we get a bar on those things when that has to happen, or do you just?
That is not a bar. No. So a bar would be a standing request from your budget itself. And these are allocations within the overall budget. We're not asking for additional budget. It's just moved to cover those accounting lines.
When you move from vacancies, which is staffing, to chemicals, there should be some.
I think they're called T-bars and they don't.
Oh, it is a T-bar, yes.
You don't require, it doesn't require the board's approval. They can do that. But when you're moving, if you're doing a budget adjustment request, that's a different thing and that would have to come in front of us.
Thanks for the clarity there. Yeah. Any other questions out here? Anybody want to, and so I'm going to ask.
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll second.
Thank you, counselors. Counselor Romero Worth with the motion and Counselor, yes. Thank you for reminding me on that. Yes. Yep. Thank you. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak and make a comment on the budget? Thank you, Nancy. I see none in the room and nobody online. So we have a motion. We have a second. The second was from Counselor Cassett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ives?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Counselor Cassett?
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth?
Yes.
And Chair Green?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are running out of agenda. Good for us. So matters from the board. Counselor? No? Counselor online? Counselor Cassett?
I just want to thank everybody for the rigmarole and getting me the Zoom link. Really appreciate it. Glad I was able to stay for the full meeting and the Zoom link allowed that. So thank you all. I know it wasn't easy and I very much appreciate everybody who contributed to that.
Thank you, Counselor. Member Ives? Nothing? Counselor, Commissioner Hughes?
No?
It's our, the kids table over here. Yeah, thanks. So I'd like to just say two things. First, thank you for allowing me to be chair this is my first meeting as chair and this is an honor to be here. But most importantly, for all of us in the room, we just passed our 20th anniversary. So happy birthday to BDD. So just as a note, we should have cake, but we had it at the last meeting. You all didn't show up, so I ate it. But congratulations to BDD. And with that, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? You don't? All right. Well, then
Move to adjourn.
we're done.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.